Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create and configure Microsoft Edge policy within Microsoft 365 Admin Center, right? And you might be wondering why we should do that in Microsoft 365 Admin Center and why not in maybe Microsoft Intune, right? Because we get the capability to configure the same policies and profile for Edge using Microsoft Intune as well, right? And the base requirement or base would be something we wanted to customize out of the current setup, including branding, including maybe initial setup of the browser, right? And in most of the cases, in most of the organizations, you might have seen that companies are using their own branding in order to let people use their internal applications or maybe customer facing applications or maybe any business applications that they wanted to use, right? And that is when this setting is going to be really handy and useful. And this is purely managed by Microsoft 365 Admin Center, as Microsoft Edge is going to be the application which has been a default on all the managed devices across the organization, right, including the Windows devices, Mac devices, and all other devices that is been managed by Intel, right, specifically. And even if we don't manage the device, in that case we would be enforcing policies which is like app protection policies, and then we would be enforcing the configurations, right? So for now I'm going to show you how we can create that policy and configure it as per our requirement, along with the branding and all other configurations to manage the browser and inside the configuration of the browsers. Okay, so let's jump on. So here I'm on Microsoft 365 Admin Center, and you need to scroll down. Then you can click on settings here, and you need to click on Microsoft Edge here. So once you click on Edge, you see a bunch of options here, which shows us some learnings about Microsoft Edge, then the management service, right, that we talked about before. In the last video, I have talked about it, how we can configure it, how we can use it, right? And then the email notifications. So I'm going to make separate notification or separate video for that, because that is a bigger another topic for end users and trainings and all of that stuff. And you can see there are different get started configuration settings that we can create for Microsoft Edge browser. Also, we have some stay involved, then help and support documentation, as well as some channels that Microsoft is continuously updating, and it's going to give us the details and information which is coming out from Microsoft regularly, right? Next, you see the configuration policies here. Here we are going to create a policy, and then we are going to configure that policy specific to Microsoft Edge browser only. So this policy doesn't impact any other applications, any other uh, configurations within the tenant or within any of the policies that are being created and managed by Microsoft Intune, right? So let's go ahead and create this policy and see how we can configure what are the different things, right? And I would simply give it a name, Microsoft Edge setup. So you can give the description as well, whatever you would like, so that basis on the name and description you can identify it and it is easy to know, right? And let's click on create button here. So once I create, you can see the policy is created here, and also you see the bunch of options. So these are the options that we can configure as administrator. So now this policy is created, and once I click on it, I get a number of options here at the top, including basics, where we have put a name and description, then some settings that we can add to these settings, then extensions, and then customization settings, then assignments, right? So we'll start from the settings first, and then we can move laterally, all right, and then we will configure this policy. So I'm going to add some settings to this browser, and you can see there are bunch of other options, a bunch of settings for us to configure, right? So all of these settings are really useful and used across the different purpose, different requirements for the edge browsers, right? For example, I wanted to set up for downloads. So I would simply be clicking on downloads, and here's the setting. So what is the setting? Show download in secure warning enabled, and there are two options, enable or disable. So I can select enable, and this is going to allow users to override if I don't uncheck this option, right? And also, if you wanted to read more about it, it is going to give us the details about this policy settings, what it does. If we enable, if we don't enable, then what happens, right? So this is pretty straightforward, and also it gives the real details about this policy and how we can configure it, and what are its impacts and things what it can do, right? For example, extensions. So there are a bunch of options for extensions, like extension allowed types, what type of options or extensions we wanted to allow, right? So we can select extensions, themes, hosted app, user scripts, platform app, or maybe legacy packaged apps. So for now, I'll just select these two options, and if I wanted to see more, I can simply click on more details, and I can see the details here, right? So basically, it is simply going to give us the visibility, as well as whatever the configurations we are making, we can simply all that details. For example, the next is identity and sign in. I can select any of these, whichever I wanted to configure for my specific requirement, right? So definitely there would be some pros and cons of each settings, and there would also be some of the conflicts, or maybe the setting itself is not good or appropriate for my use case, for my requirement, and that is when it is really needed to go through these settings and configurations, and then decide whichever setting is really gonna help me and my organization and my business and my team specifically, right? So basis on that, we can decide whichever is appropriate, whichever is going to help me, and then we can go ahead and configure it. So for example, the next is kiosk mode. So there are a bunch of other settings for kiosk as well. So let's say kiosk swipe gesture enabled, we can set it to enable, disable, and then again we can see the options or the details about this policy, right? So this details is really helpful and handy when we are configuring within the browser and what this policy does, right? And this is when it is going to give us the details. Also, for password manager and protection, password manager, whether we wanted to allow or disable, we can set it to allow, or allow as an enabled or disabled, right? So if we set to enable, that means it is allowed. If we set to disabled, if it is not allowed at all. So you can see the description and details about that policy as well, right? So I'll set it to enabled, and I'm not going to check this one because I don't want users to overwrite. So I can simply go ahead and save that settings. So whatever the changes I have made in this policy, it is going to be saved, and all that is gonna be saved, and we can, as soon as we assign this policy, it is going to be deployed on those devices and users, right? So now this is saved. We can go back, and we can see that we have selected this policy, which is selected, added under the settings, and that is added here, right? So I have option to edit or delete if in case I don't wanted to use this one at all, right? And next is our extensions. So under extensions, we can see there are two tabs, extensions and requests. So under extensions, I have a bunch of options again. We can import any other extensions from any other third party providers, right? Also, we can export the existing extensions if we have added anything there, and we can add some extensions from within store extensions. So these are the store extensions that Microsoft has pushed in, and there are some external extensions that we can add with their ID and name and description. Also, we have options to add sidebar apps, right? So these are also integrated with uh, the current Microsoft Edge store. Let's say I wanted to add Teams, I will simply hit the add button and it will be added there. If I wanted to add maybe Outlook here, I will simply add it, and then that's going to be added here, right? So this way we can add additional extensions, and those can be added, and those would be approved extensions by the IT and security and all those respective teams, so that we know what we are allowing or what we are letting people use, instead of people are simply blindly using any applications because they are not technical enough, they are not aware about the technicality as well as the security concerns and the usage of those applications, right? So this way we can make sure add the appropriate extensions and applications, and users would have access to it, right? Also, there are some setting manage default extension settings. We can change these settings, what type of extensions we wanted to allow and block, and if there are any customization that we would like to do, we can do or go through this block extensions by permissions. So basis on that, we can select the right appropriate permissions and block it, or maybe simply do not allow them to use or add any of those extensions, right? So this is very straightforward and easy to use, and pretty handy to set up and configure, right? And the next is customization setting. So this is basis on the browser level, and this is not specific to application or extension. This is for browser itself, and the settings that you can see here, let's say Copilot, which is something which is an extension within the browser, and that has been pushed by Microsoft, right? And that is available. So if in case we wanted to disable that, we can disable that as well. And there are other settings like maybe block access to third party LLM chatbots and other AI features, so we can simply uncheck it and it is going to be disabled, right? And there are some organizational brandings that we can do, which we can see like this. At the right side here, we can see the profile, then the profile flyout here, then the user account or user identity, right? And this basis on that, it is going to show us sync is on. So that means whatever the user identity is being used on the browser, which is Microsoft Edge, that is going to be used as an identity to sync and utilize and use the profile and everything together, right? At the same time, we can set up the custom branding if in case we wanted to use our company logo, company brandings, then we can simply do that. And you can see now, this is the, let's say, company name. You can see that name here as pre-filled or profile fill automatically. Also, you see the credentials, user identity here with the name. So this is an example it is showing up, but it is going to give us the details. Also, we can add the logo by importing that logo from a local machine or from local browser, and we can add it. So that is going to be a branding and is going to be showing up. Also, we can add the taskbar icon by importing it here, and that's going to be added. So this is pretty straightforward and standard branding, and we can customize it as our need. The next is automatic profile switching. So this is going to be something which is going to let users change or automatically switch the profiles from one identity to another. So as an user would have a different profiles or identities created on the browser, they can switch on and switch off from one to another, and they can use both at same time, or that is the simultaneous access. But in most cases, users would not have different profiles altogether, or maybe different identities, and that is when this may not be used in many or most of the cases, but this is also an option given here so that we can configure and set up. Then switch list. So switch list is going to be set up as an additional identity or additional entry to switch from primary to secondary and vice versa. And there are some security settings that we can set up. Let's say enhance security mode on the browser side, we can simply enable this one and select the security mode, whether it is strict or balanced, and then we can additionally configure a block use of alternate browsers when we have any particular URL or any specific application that needs to be go through only a specific browser only, then we can set up that by using this option here. And whatever the URLs or web apps, all those should go through this specific browser and check the browser capability or the application capability, whether that application is safe enough and secure. If not, then it should simply discard or should not allow to access that, right? And once we are done here, we have options to save changes or discard the changes. So I'm going to save this change and let it saved, because I wanted to show you how we can configure it, and that is when we can save the changes, right? So now we have gone through the configuration settings and its options available here. Now the next is assignments. So assignment is going to be something where we wanted to assign this policy to, right? So which group, whether it is a device group or user group or what, right? And which group we wanted to assign. Here we have select group option, or here is the same option that we can select. So for now I'm going to select all, and you can see all users, right? And I'm going to target that all users group. So I believe, okay, let me type it here. So all devices group doesn't pop up here because this setting is going to be pretty standard for user scope and user context and not the device context, and that is why you don't see the device group here, right? Because as soon as you see in real time, you get clarity, and instead of just trying to find and see, that's not the real use case or real useful, right? So this policy can be targeted on a user basis or user context and not the device context, right? And once selected, click this select button. So this is going to be added here. All right, so this is added, you can see, right? And once we are done here, we can go back and we can see the policy. So policy is created and the priority is set to 0. Also we can add another policy, and it is going to automatically set the priority to that policy to 1. So the priority is going to be set automatically from 1 to 3 4, and then as per the policies we create, right? Also we have options here to reorder the priority of the policies. Then we can delete the policy, copy the policy, rename the policy, and import export along with the deploy, right? So deploy is going to be simply, once I click on deploy button, it is going to give us the option to select the particular profile. Let's say we wanted to maybe select bookmark on Google Chrome, right? Or maybe bookmark on Edge browser. So I'll select both of these and hit deploy. Unable to update the policy. Okay, it has given an small error which says unable to deploy. Okay, we can select or see that why it is not allowing. But this is how, so this is going to be deployment, but the actual assignment is going to be something by assigning it to a group level, the way we saw it under the assignments here, right? So as soon as we assign it to a specific group, it is going to be applied to that specific group and the policy is ready to be deployed, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. Hope you will like it. Please do like, share and subscribe to the channel, and do share this this video with their friends, colleagues, and within your network, so that they can also see something new and different and learn from it. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you get the new videos every time as soon as those are available, right? So yeah, thanks for watching.